the court proceeding, which is I don't really know anything about law or international law. So I have to go and read a lot and educate myself in the subject just to be able to bring it to you. I was hoping that we can make, like more kind of arty documentary out of it, but the more we tried, it was just impossible to make something arty out of it. So I hope it was okay for you and you didn't sleep. And if you have any question, I'll be more than happy to answer it.
Actually, it's not a question, it's just a thank you. The film was beautiful. It's difficult to make that subject beautiful, but you managed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I ask a question? At the very end, someone, I suppose it was one of the judges, at the very end, someone was saying, oh, Palestinians should be patient and try not to be violent. And I wonder, it's like how much patient do you have to be, and how much do you have to stand when someone is breaking your neck, and you still have to say, oh, I can't be violent.
Well, he's a judge, and I get to spend some time with him. He's really a very peaceful man. And so for him, that's his conviction. That's what he thinks. And in a way, I kind of agree with him. I think for the Palestinian now, not patient, because we don't have any more patience. We just can't take it anymore. But I think it's the realization that the time now is not really our time. I wish if I have a good news to report to you from Palestine, but it's not. The situation is really, really dark. And the Palestinian cause is being liquidated as we speak. Donald Trump and his deal of the century, or whatever he called it, and now we have a three-piece envoy, the three of them, the Jewish nationalists. One of them is one of the biggest supporters for settlement, Kushner, and the ambassador for the American in Tel Aviv, he actually doesn't live in Tel Aviv, he lives in one of the settlements. So now we really in a different time. And for us, we cannot give up on governments. There is no way we can convince the American or the British to do anything. And let's face it, this conflict is really in the hand of three countries: the American, the British, and the German. Because this is where 90% of the money of Israel, that's where it comes from. The Israeli receive $10 million every morning from the American, just from the American. So in a way, Israel wins the lottery every day. And this has been happening for 60 years. So, I mean, a lot of people ask me about BDS, and it's good, keep doing BDS.
So can you just say what BDS is in case?
Oh,
yeah.
BDS is a boycott, divestment, sanction. It's a non-violent movement to force Israel to end its occupation. But to be honest with you, reality on the ground, Israel doesn't care about BDS. Even if the whole world boycott Israel, they really don't care, as long as the American, the British, and the German paying. They don't care about the opinion of the German, but they like the euros. So right now, don't worry about us, we're not gonna stop. We're farmers, we know how to farm our land and live. But if there is anything we really in a short, it's hope. It's just we don't know how to motivate our young people anymore. I teach sometimes at Birzeit University, and to be honest with you, I stopped running away from my student questions. Because I don't know how to answer it. I really don't know how to answer that question. When I show them the film, just like you, like patient, they actually start laughing when you said patient. Yeah.
I would laugh as well. How am I going to be patient when I see people taking my land, building settlements on it, burning my trees, which my grandfather implanted it. We waited 62 years now. We need help, we need solution, we need to be people on our side.
Who's gonna help us? The Saudis?
Well,
Be honest with you, I really rely on people like you
they
more
are
than
the
all the
biggest
government to do.
culprits, the Saudis.
And I really believe at the end of the day, people like you who is going to make the difference. Not your government, even if the labor will make it to be in the government. It's just, there's so much politics and so much money involved. They will not be able to speak their mind and to do the right thing. We're not asking the British government for magic thing. Just implement international law. This is the highest court on earth. And 14 out of the 15 judges was with us. And the only judge you saw him, the American one. And he's a story by itself. It's not the time for it now. So if you can't implement the decision of the ICJ, the highest court on earth, then what? What else, what can we do? I agree with you, I share the same frustration, but what can we do?
The only thing
Yes,
is just
that
to
would
be
be a
able of our situation.
Just a minute.
And I'm not against the Israeli people, civilian people, I'm not. I'm against the occupation because it's illegal.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just going to say, does there have to be does there have to be a consensus of all members of the UN before a law is is agreed on? So, I mean, even if they come to one agreement and then it's put to the it's agreed on by most of the people, but if one person disagrees, then it's invalid.
No, actually, one of the things that I learned from making this film is how the UN function. And you really don't want to know.
Yes.
There is something called Security Council, and there is the General Assembly. Security Council, the 5 big guys, the British, the American, the French, the Russian, the Chinese. Any of them have the veto right. And you have the rest of the world in the General Assembly. So the rest of the world could say something, and one of these guys will say something different, and it's invalid. They're the only one who have the veto power to veto any decisions. So the 156 country they voted for us, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because none of the big guys is voted with us in the Security Council.
Yeah.
So that's something that could be changed.
I hope so, especially with the British. If you a political activist, spend half an hour of your time and study how the British vote in the UN. It's really funny. In the General Assembly, they will say yes. In the Security Council, they will say no. In the General Assembly, it doesn't matter. It's really not important. But where important is the Security Council. And the Security Council, they go with the American. I looked how they vote in the last 5 years. Like 1 or 2 times, they break away from the American. And be honest with you, I don't know why a country like the UK is still going behind the US. I really don't know why.
Not we.
In the US, it's, I was there after Donald Trump. If some of you went to visit America, America changed. It really changed completely. And it's going to change, even to change further since Trump took over. The whole talk of a human right and international law, they don't even talk about it anymore. Before they were doing like lip service. Now they don't even talk about it at all. This is what Trump wants, and this is how it's gonna go. And I don't know if you noticed last week, he tweeted, like Israel shouldn't leave the Golan Heights.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a tweet.
So for
And
a
you know,
joke.
for us here, we might laugh and we might shake our head, but it's not joke, it's reality. This guy is in charge of the strongest army ever existed. And all the money you could think of. So I'm not asking you to go and change America and Donald Trump, but you could at least do something here.
Oh, okay. Trying to remember the question. I've forgotten.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Sorry.
No, you for the micro, because we are recording.
Okay. We're talking about rights. Have the Palestinian got any rights in the next elections in Israel? Do you know?
No. Actually, I could show you my passport. 6 months ago, they started doing something new. They will stamp your passport in Hebrew. Before it was English. Now it's in Hebrew. So I went to translate with the stamp. And it's basically the West Bank is no longer exist as a legal entity. Now they call us Judea and Samaria. They went back to the biblical name. And you know, it's the film is finishing late 2018. But you know, most of the information in it, it's outdated. You know, we used to think Israel is doing the wall because they want to annex land into Israel. Now, they don't care about that. They want the whole thing. And you know who's against the wall more than the Palestinian? The settlers. Because for the settlers, this is Eretz Israel. It's all Israel. Why build a wall in the middle? Who's the Palestinian? Israel deported 500,000 Palestinians since 1967 until 2014. If you add the numbers, that's more than what they pushed out during the Nakba and during the 1967 war. You know, and Israeli sociologists call it civilized transfer. You don't hear about it because it's a case by case. You know, your paper is not okay. I lost my ID because I was 17 days late to renew my ID. So now I don't have a Palestinian ID. I enter the country an American passport. And they give me 2 weeks visa. So I have to leave. To be honest with you, I have a whole budget just for the visa. Because it costs me about £5,000 a year just to renew the visa. It's for them, it's so clear. They started the whole conflict based on a slogan. A land with no people for a people with no land. Now they want to make it reality, that there is no one in this land. So they're driving us one by one out.
They make it difficult for us to go back. I am a peaceful person. I lived in this country for 28 years. I've got a British passport. I'm not allowed to go through Tel Aviv. My crime is I am Palestinian. I have to go to take a flight from here to Jordan, take a taxi from Jordan to the bridge, cross the bridge, then cross the Israeli side, struggle 2 days to reach home when I could reach it in 4.5 hours.
Yeah, you know, when we
I
travel
haven't done anything.
and we check for airline,
My
so
crime
if
is
it costs the
Palestinian.
300, we say double it. Double it is to get to the airport. It really costs you as much as your ticket. Because you have to leave the West Bank, go to the bridge, go to Jordan,
It's,
Amman, from Amman go to the airport.
it's so expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very, very, but this is their way of getting people out of the country and not letting them back. I haven't gone. 15 years I avoided going because of this situation. But I have to go last.
He just remembered his question, so we don't have to lose.
Well, thank you. Thinking of all the other things. If I could make a brief comment first and then a question related to your previous point as well. I understand that the focus of the film was on international law of particularly the wall. I'd also like to, make a comment that maybe what didn't come out in the film, because the focus is on the law, is the impact that the wall has on the Palestinian communities in that whole area, dividing up villages and communities between each other, not just stopping Palestinians going into Israel or into the settlements.
Splitting families.
Go ahead, do you have a question?
Yeah, and then the other question related to what you were talking about earlier was to do with boycott, divestment and sanctions. I think what you mentioned was that Israel doesn't care about that. I would have to perhaps disagree to say on that, because they've obviously been throwing a huge amount of resources, political and financial, at demonising BDS to basically conflate it with the charge of it being anti-Semitic, as if it's against Jews. I mean, there are Jews, lots of Jewish people who are, and Israelis, by the way, who fully support boycott, divestment and sanctions of Israel. So a lot of focus has gone on to trying to sort of demonise it by Israel. So I think they're very concerned about it. And as you say, the political struggle comes to virtually nothing. And what is there left for Palestinians and for people globally to protest? I mean, there is peaceful protest, which happens over there, obviously, and they get shot by rubber-coated steel bullets and hit by tear gas canisters, which can blind them, etc. That was my comment and question.
I agree with you. I think I didn't make myself clear when I said Israel doesn't care. I'm talking about the money. Because their money is guaranteed. It is not really based on what people think and what BDS think. The money is guaranteed from the American, from the British, from the German. It's guaranteed. It doesn't matter what. That's what I meant. But of course they care about the legitimacy of their own state. That definitely, and that's what gets them wild in Europe. That's why they're trying to stop BDS, because to them, it is so important for Israel to be seen, the only democracy in the Middle East, and it's, they call it bacon of human rights. They actually do. Yeah. And I don't know if any of you following the Israeli election, it's happening now. You just won't believe what the politicians say on the mic. One of them, quote unquote, a good Arab is a dead Arab.
Yeah.
And the crowd cheer. It's on TV. And it's okay. So imagine if that will happen in anywhere in Europe.
One of the American representatives said Palestinians shouldn't be alive. They should die, all die.
Yeah, in the last war in Gaza, the deputy chief of staff, you could find it, you could Google it, said we will make a Holocaust out of Gaza. And that's the deputy chief of staff. And for me, I mean, all of us capable of saying something stupid sometimes. So it wasn't big deal what he said. To me, what really shocking is the reaction from the Israeli society. Nothing.
But he got the tense wrong. It's not we will make a Holocaust out of Gaza. We are making it, and we have nearly finished doing it.
I just wanted to ask about what you just picking up on the thing that you said before about the guaranteed money coming from Britain and America, and how that kind of undermines the BDS movement. I assumed that that money was coming from the demand that was created by the British and the American public for those products, and that's why BDS was successful. Sorry. So could you just clarify what exactly you meant by the guaranteed finance that's going to Israel from England and America?
I know the American very well. I don't know the British very well. And in America, there's $3 billion goes to Israel every year. That's the official aid from the US government to the state of Israel. Plus that they get something for agriculture and something for education and whatever come from the Jewish community. This money is guaranteed. When Hamas start firing, these kids rocket, I call them, because they really, if Hamas fired 27,000 rockets, the total people was killed 13. But the American built them something called the Iron Dome for $480 million to protect Israel from the Hamas rocket. That's what I meant by the guarantees. And the German doing the same thing, and the British doing the same thing. I did not do my research fully on the British and the German, but the American, I know the story very well. There is the lady here.
Hi, I was wanting to ask about, in the United States, I keep hearing things where senators and Congress people are being asked to pledge allegiance to Israel. And people in there's rules in some states, I don't know if you're aware, are able to comment about that. But also, there's clearly a risk that people on the right are wanting to impose that in Britain as well. And the whole thing about trying to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism and making it a political target in the same way as they're using the BDS, the anti-BDS movement to try to do the same thing, to demonize it, to demonize anything that's against the Israeli state as being anti-Semitic. And it shocked me that they have this pledge in America, but yeah, I'd like to know a bit more about that.
In America, it used to be AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, but now is no longer really the strong one. The strongest lobby for Israel now is the Christian Zionists, if you ever heard of that term.
Yes.
This is Christians, basically. They take the Bible literally, and they believe that Jesus will not come back until all the Jews gather in the land of Israel, and it will be a war between the good people and the bad people. You don't have to explain to you who's good or who's bad, we're the bad one. And all of us will die, and half of the Jews will die in that war, and whatever left, they will convert to Christianity, and that's the end of the story. Of course, Israel and Israeli politicians, they laughing at them, but they love their support. They the one who put Donald Trump in the White House. They no joking matter. They brag that they have 74 million voters in the US. I don't know if the number is correct, but they definitely could make it or break it in American election.
Yes.
And right now for America to be a politician, if you go against Israel, it's suicidal. You will lose. No matter who you are, you will lose. There was a lady, she's from the African American, Cynthia McKinney. She just kind of spoke her mind. She's not against Israel. She just, she spoke against the occupation. And they started a campaign called ABC, anybody but Cynthia. They finished her. There is an American senator, 22 years in the Senate. What's his name? Paul Finley. He wrote a book, Dare to Speak the Truth. Just because he made one comment. And they asked him to apologize. He said, no, I'm not going to apologize. He's done. So if you're a politician, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that book, The Israeli Lobby. It was written by 2 Jewish professors at Harvard. It's available online. You could find it. You could read it online. 52% of all the money that goes to political parties is from Jewish donors. 52%. In the American Jewish community, make 2% of the population. So you don't really need a genius to figure out what's the story. It's the money. And in America, it's outrageous the amount of money they spend on the election. I think Donald Trump has spent almost $500 million.
More questions? The last one, maybe.
Yeah.
So human rights, what human rights have the Palestinians? Because so far, I don't think they have many at the moment. I mean, maybe as well in the past, but.
I think, I don't have the answer. I don't claim that I know the truth. But I think I'm also a bit weary if it start, of gathering like this. We gather, we talk about it, we vent our anger and frustration. But I think it's about time to go the next step, to start being organized. What to do? Really, what to do? If I care about subject, what to do to change that subject? I've been coming to England for a long time. And I remember I have a conversation like this 10 years ago. Nothing happened. The situation is still the same. It's actually worse, way worse. Yeah. And don't let them shut you down by the anti-Semitism stuff. This is just complete baloney. We're not gonna buy this stuff, especially for us, the Palestinians. By the way, they don't call us anti-Semite, because we Semite too. But for us, it's terrorists. For us, terrorists. Whatever you say, you're terrorist. I did a lecture in Tel Aviv University, and I asked them, I said, I have a suggestion for you. I talked to the Palestinian, and all the Palestinian ready and agree that we will fight Israel the way Israel wants us to fight them. Tell us how we can resist you. They start laughing. I said, I'm serious. Tell us how can we resist you. Because no matter what we will do, it's terrorism. Even if you talk, it's terrorism. If you're in your house, it's terrorism. Yeah. If you throw stone, it's terrorism. So we don't know what to do anymore. And I think it's about time, especially I know Bristol is a very happening town and they have very good activists. I think really it's about time to have a cool-headed conversation, what's next, what to do next. Because I'm sorry to tell you, if you really care about the Palestinian cause, it's gone. It's gone. They've been liquidated right now as we speak. You should see the amount of money they're spending on checkpoints. By the way, you could find videos. They make videos for us how nice is the checkpoint now, and you could go and just put your thumb and you could pass with your thumb, and it's crazy. The guy you saw in the beginning of the film, the architect, you know where is he now? He's in Budapest, advising the Hungarian how to build the wall for the refugees. And he has a company, he's so proud of it. The wall, they're talking about it in America between the US and Mexico. He's the one who was advising Donald Trump. And they don't care. They think it's really cool. Israel is a #1 in wall technology in the world. So watch out, they might be building something here soon.
But it had the holes on the top, no?
Yeah, the holes.
That was quite good.
I don't know if it's opening a big can of worms, but I'd like to know what your opinion about the two-state solution option is. Or is that too big for now?
No, I've been asked that question in Germany. I'll give you my own personal opinion. Right now, I really don't care. 1 state, 2 state, 3 state. I just don't want to be kicked out of my home. And I think that discussion about 1 state or 2 state, it's too luxury now. Because the situation on the ground is changing rapidly.
Yeah.
And I think for Israel, you like them, you don't, you understand them, you don't. You have to keep in mind that they really paranoid. It's a manufactured paranoia. You know, Netanyahu, he's always telling them, we will live by the sword and die by the sword. Imagine your prime minister telling you, you will live all your life by the sword.
She's practically doing it.
But they do. They really think this way. I mean, there's the history, the trauma of the history, but the Palestinians have to pay for it. And to them, if there's a one state, it's obvious next year, between the river and the sea, the Palestinian will be the majority. So if there is election, the next prime minister of Israel probably will be Mohammed. So one state solution for Israel is non-starter. They don't want to talk about it. It's not even on the table. And for me, I don't know, I mean, I'm reaching my 60s and I want a solution. You know, I want a solution where I know my kids will be there safe. So the discussion of one state or two state, of course, for me, I definitely will love one state. You know, I would like to take my kids on the weekend and go to the beach. Yeah. But I know it's not a starter, and I really don't want to waste time on it.
One more question to each.
What kind of pressure do you think we can apply?
Just so.
So what do we do next?
Locking down schools.
As I guess many, like we look at our government and it seems,
Can
we
you-
look
That's
at
the mic.
our government and it seems pretty hopeless that
Yeah.
And where do we go? Because I mean, I can only feel like rebellion and revolt is the only violence, or not even violence, but we can't look at and trust our prime ministers or our government to not continue sending money, to not support our own businesses over, you know, over the lives of civilians in Palestine. And, you know, what do we do? Like you said, what do we do? Do you have any ideas or suggestions, or?
I mean, you know, if I was a British, I would be outraged. England is a beautiful country, but to be honest with you, they can invest it in the train system. Your train system is a bit backward. They could invest this money in the train system. They can invest it for the young people to go to universities. They could fix the homeless problem. I'm really shocked how many homeless in this town.
Yeah.
And if there is anything as a Palestinian I would be proud of, there is not a single homeless person in Gaza. Although Gaza water to drink. So you have so many good ways to spend the money here and your citizen. And I don't know why a country like the UK is afraid of Israel. No one on earth, not even the American, did to Israel what the UK did to Israel. And you know, for the Palestinian, they of course they don't like America, but they definitely dislike the UK way more than America, because they know where is all this started and who started all this. Yeah. And I was talking to a friend of mine in London. He's a history teacher. I was stunned of what the kids study in school here. You basically don't know anything about your empire.
Yeah.
And what they did. You can invest it in education. You can invest this money in education, educate the young people. I don't know. I don't think I have the right to come here and tell you what to do. I don't know what you should be doing. I don't know what's the situation here. I don't know the local politics. But it's definitely, we need to take it to the next step.
Some of us are going to London next week to demonstrate against arms fairs and selling arms to Israel. We do that regularly.
Yeah.
You want to come with
And
us next Thursday?
one more thing I'd like to say, and it's not about Palestine, it's about Yemen.
Yeah.
6 months ago, I got the contract with the UN you know, you don't really make living out of making documentaries, so you always have to find, you know, a job on the side. So I took a job from the UN to film for the humanitarian situation in Yemen. I was there for 11 days. I could definitely say to you that one of the most depressing time I ever spent in my life. Little kids walking in the street with no parents, their parents get killed. The whole system collapsed. There is no welfare system, there's no government, there's nothing. You know? So just people, the mosque now is playing the government. The mosque shelter people and bring some food and things like this. And who's selling all these bombs to the Saudis?
We are.
Come on, England could do better than that. Why are you mingling with the Saudis? They're the most oppressive country ever existed. I'm not talking about the people, by the way.
Thank you for a wonderful film, but I wonder if I can just take the opportunity on the back of what you just said about Yemen to make sure everyone knows about this meeting being put on by Stop the War on Tuesday the 2nd of April at 7 o'clock at the Kitchen, called Stop Bombing Yemen, Stop Arming Saudi Arabia. So everybody come to that meeting.
Thank you.
They're so involved in Yemen, by the way. They're not just selling weapons. There is also a British expert giving the Saudis direction where to drop the bombs. So they're not really innocent in this subject. And you know what? It's really shame on them. That one, it really needs to stop way before Palestine. The Palestinians kind of get used to it. They know how to deal with it. But in Yemen, it's just the whole society collapse. And you know, no one, you could ask all of them, no one in the street knows why this war is still happening. And for what? So thank you, thank people who are trying to do something about it.
Fight for all rights, no? Fight for Palestinian rights.
It's violation of a human right is violation of a human right. If it's in Palestine, or it's in Chile, or it's in Brazil, or it's in America, everywhere is the same thing. If you care about it in Palestine, you should care about it somewhere else too.
I mean, I don't see how possibly they, on what, they can go in and demolish a school. I mean, wow.
And you know where they got it?
I don't know.
The first one to practice this was the British. And they practice it in Palestine and in India.
Yeah, India, yes.
There's quite a legacy for this country. Huh?
But still, is that why the international law doesn't work?
So now I have a question for you. And please give me your honest opinion. Do you think films like this is good for Western audience?
Yeah.
Good for
Western audience.
Yeah.
I think anything, because we have a mainstream. I mean, Caroline and a few others here, we do the vigil at the fountains. That is such an ignorance because nothing is coming on mainstream media. And anything that, and especially the young people, that is going sideways on social media is absolutely good, because if the BBC gives 30 seconds to a few people got killed at the Gaza border protest, you're very lucky. Nothing is going on the media.
Well, we're talking to Channel 4. We'll see. Let's see how it will go.
Channel 4.
Yes, yes.
I think the answer to the question, as far as I'm concerned, is yes, it's really important.
Hello? Yeah. I think the answer, as far as I'm concerned, is this kind of film is very important. The reason because it's not just the subject matter, it's just you're making a human statement. You're showing people, by making the film, not just there is a war, not just is not internationally, accepted. Not just the settlements are illegal. You are making it into not a 5-second snap, which is what we normally see on news. 5-second snap, and then we eat our dinner and we walk on. When you see something like this, it's different. You are captivated onto the film. You make the colors, you make the movements, you see the people, and it becomes human. It becomes not a 5-minute snap on a TV screen, which we all watch every day.